It is now time for my highly requested Black Sabbath discography review and ranking. If you've been following my channel for a while, you may have a few questions like it usually takes me a week and a half to 2 weeks to finish an entire discography of a band. How am I able to make a Black Sabbath video a day after I upload my Blue Oyster Cult video? B, why didn't I start this video with I just listened to every album by Black Sabbath and here are my thoughts like I usually do? And C, a lot of people have been asking on my videos, how did I go my whole life hearing barely anything from any of the bands that I'm reviewing? All of those questions can be answered with the fact that I have been listening to Black Sabbath's discography practically relentlessly for almost the last 20 years. I've been through the whole discography several times when I could have been listening to more Blue Oyster Cult or more David Bowie or more Queen or more whoever else. What I was doing was listening to Black Sabbath. First I got a greatest hits, and then I made my way through all the Ozzy and Dio years, and then it wasn't until, I'd say around 10 years ago or so that I started getting into the Tony Martin era, but yeah, that rounds it all out. So Black Sabbath starts off in 1970 with their first release by casually inventing a new genre of music. And if you look back on my channel, you'll see, yes, I reviewed Blue Cheer, I reviewed Coven, I reviewed the Beatles, so I know about Helter Skelter. I reviewed Led Zeppelin, and I already knew about Whole Lotta Love. Sometimes people say, oh, well, these bands or these songs was really the invention of heavy metal. No, it was the first notes of the song Black Sabbath on this album. In fact, I'm hard-pressed to think of any genre that has as clear a moment of invention as this album release right here. I mean, nothing before this was this dark and heavy and so clearly meant to give you this storm cloud feeling in your head. Now, there is not much I can say about the first 6 Black Sabbath albums that hasn't already been said, so I'm just gonna say this. I'm not sure there has ever been a band that has had as strong a 6-album run as Black Sabbath does here at the start of their career. These 6 albums they released from 70 to 75 are genre defining. Now back to this first album, I love the song Black Sabbath. I love Behind the Wall of Sleep. I love NIB. I love The Wizard. I like Wicked World. It's a pretty cool song, a little on the jazzier side. If there's anything I can say that holds this album even a little bit back, it would be that so much of the album is devoted to the final track, which is often just called Warning, although it has a kind of long name of a bunch of different titles. It's not that it's a bad song, it's just, it's before Black Sabbath really knew what they were, and this song doesn't really seem to fit either on this album or in their discography as a whole. It's a almost 15-minute long, almost improvisational sounding, kind of bluesy, jazzy number. Then they released Paranoid, again in 1970, and it's amazing that this is not a greatest hits album. It is jam-packed with amazing songs, including the 3 songs that Black Sabbath is most known for, which is Paranoid, War Pigs, and Iron Man. I think any human on this planet, no matter what kind of music they like, would recognize the main Iron Man riff. When I try to look at it objectively, I think War Pigs must be the best song on this album. It's just one of those songs that I have heard so much that when I go back to Paranoid, I'm most excited to listen to Fairies Wear Boots or Electric Funeral or Hand of Doom or Planet Caravan, just because they scratched that itch in my brain. It's been a while since I heard them, and I get excited to hear them again. And all those songs I mentioned before are as good as the most famous 3 that we all know from this album. For that reason, if someone says that Paranoid isn't one of Black Sabbath's best albums, I think they're just trying to be edgy and contrary, because it clearly is one of the best albums of all time. Then comes Master of Reality in 1971. If I had to guess, I'd think the most famous song on this album is probably Children of the Grave. I love the production on this album. The guitar's a little fuzzier. They're even better on the riffs than they've been previously. and and it's just as dark as the albums that came before, but it's a little more like chill sounding. It's for this reason that if you ask a lot of doom metal fans what the first doom metal album was, or first stoner doom album, a lot of them will say Master of Reality. This whole album is good. Obviously, Children of the Grave is a really good song, but the final three songs, where it's just back to back to back, Lord of this World, then Solitude, then Into the Void, this album closes on such a high note. Then comes Volume 4 in 1972. If I had to pick a weakest of the bunch for the first 6 Black Sabbath albums, I think I would pick this one. You are splitting hairs at that point, though, because this album has Tomorrow's Dream and Supernaut and Snowblind and Wheels of Confusion and St. Vitus Dance and Cornucopia. Under the Sun is a pretty underrated song, too. My favorites, it's somewhere in between Wheel of Confusion and Snowblind. I think I'll have to give the edge to Snowblind, though. Let the winter sunshine on. Let me feel the frost of God. So then we got Sabbath Bloody Sabbath in 1973. This album gets off to a very strong start with its title track and National Acrobat. Fluff is a very pretty acoustic instrumental. You got Sabra Cadabra, which was one of mine and my wife's dating songs. This album closes off, though, with my absolute favorite Black Sabbath song of all time, Spiral Architect. Watching eyes of celluloid tell you how to live. Metaphoric. Now, they wait a couple years to release another album, and they come out with Sabotage in 1975. Ozzy Osbourne's voice has never been and will never be again as strong as it is on this album. He belts it out with his chest on this one. That is immediately obvious when this album comes out the gate with songs like Hole in the Sky and Symptom of the Universe. Megalomania is a really underrated song, but this album's closer is my favorite from this album, and is maybe in my top 5, certainly in my top 10 favorite Black Sabbath songs, and that is The Writ. Now, I've been singing praises about the first 6 Black Sabbath albums, and we've just gone through 6. Up next is Technical Ecstasy, and this is one of my least favorite Black Sabbath albums. This is such a hard turn downward. This album is full of just confusing production and songwriting decisions. Evidently, if you look at their history, this album is kind of the culmination of their drug habits catching up to them. All Moving Parts from this is a pretty good song. It's Alright is also alright. My favorite song from this album is the closing track, Dirty Women. They do bring it back at least a little bit for the next release, which is 1978's Never Say Die. Ozzy's voice is still sounding pretty weak, but this album's quality lies somewhere in between Technical Ecstasy and the first 6. This is a surprisingly solid album. I kept thinking back when I got it that I wasn't gonna like it, but it kept going through Johnny Blade and Junior's Eyes and A Hard Road and Shockwave and Swingin' the Chain, and all throughout these songs I was just thinking, oh, okay, this album is actually pretty good. The best song, though, and it's not even close, is the title track. After the release of this album and the tour, vocalist Ozzy Osbourne is fired. And it was fired due to his drug habits. He's not reliable. His skills aren't there as a singer anymore. And Black Sabbath's future is really uncertain at this point. But they run into ex-Rainbow vocalist Ronnie James Dio. Now, Black Sabbath turns into a very different band at this point. So a lot of Sabbath fans will say, oh, well, the only real Sabbath is those first 8 albums with Ozzy Osbourne. They had to change their style to be a little more impassioned and aggressive, partly to usher in a new decade coming up, and to adapt to Ronnie James Dio's vastly different vocal style. So they come out with Heaven and Hell in 1980. This is my favorite album of all time. It is often mentioned as the best metal album of all time, or one of the best metal albums of all time, and yeah, it is my favorite. It would be quicker to tell you the one thing that I don't love about this album, which would be the song Walk Away. It's the only song on here that isn't 11 out of 10 amazing. Neon Nights, Children of the Sea, the title track, Die Young, Lonely is the Word. I mean, every one of these songs still gives me chills every single time I listen to them. I can't pick a favorite, so I'll just play a clip of the title track. Now, flying off the heels of this rejuvenated success, they released The Mob Rules in 1981. While I have a hard time saying this album is as good as Heaven and Hell, it is a little more uneven in parts. When this album is really good, it is just as good as Heaven and Hell. And I'm specifically talking about songs like Voodoo, The Sign of the Southern Cross, the title track, and Falling Off the Edge of the World. If I had to pick a favorite, I think I might pick Sign of the Southern Cross. Miles high, about to fall, and no one there to catch you, and for the side. After this, though, some personality differences between Ronnie and Tony Iommi, the guitarist, started coming to a head. They decided it would be best to part ways, where Dio launches a successful solo career and Black Sabbath hires a new vocalist. This vocalist is Ian Gillan, who was formerly with Deep Purple, and they released the album Born Again. This 1983 release is a divisive one. The production on this album is god-awful, and that is the main reason why a lot of fans, including myself, have it towards the bottom of their list. The songs are here. Trashed is a great song. Disturbing the Priest is a great song. My favorite song, Zero the Hero. It just needs a remix so badly. It wasn't even supposed to sound this bad. That was a mistake. They found the master files. Tony said they're going to remix it. When that'll happen, I don't know. Poor sales lead Black Sabbath to go quiet after the Born Again tour, and Ian Gillan is no longer with the band. Now, Tony Iommi tries to release a solo album, but the record company forces him to release it under the name Black Sabbath, so that's where we get the next release, The Seventh Star. Glenn Hughes is the vocalist for this one, also ex-Deep Purple. Now, this album is a little poppier, I guess I would say. It sounds like the soundtrack to like an 80s action semi-romance movie. In for the Kill and the title track, The Seventh Star, are excellent songs off this, but the lead single was No Stranger to Love, which is a ballad. Living on the streets, I'm no stranger to love. Why can't you see I'm no... Don't sleep on the title track, though. It is mysterious, it's doomy, it sounds like it could be a dark Blue Oyster Cult song. After this, Black Sabbath kind of gets serious again, and they hire Tony Martin, who is the third main vocalist. He's here for the next several albums. And they released The Eternal Idol in 1987. This is an impressively solid album. Songs like Ancient Warrior, the title track is really cool. Nightmare was a cool song. A Hard Life to Live was a really cool song. It is widely agreed, including by me, that The Shining is the best song on this album. Rise up to the shining river. After this pretty solid release, Black Sabbath steps it up a notch and releases Headless Cross. So it's 1989 at this point, and this album is the best Tony Martin album. It is definitely in the top half, maybe in the top quarter of best Black Sabbath albums. In fact, on my own list, you'll see it just scratch the top 5. There is not a bad song on this album. Call of the Wild was just kind of more on the okay side, but man, the title track, Nightwing, Killing the Spirit World, Black Moon is like this heavy bluesy song, and then my favorite, When Death Calls. Misguided mortals, you burn with me. Spirit of man cannot be free. They stay on this creative high for the next release, which is 1990's Tear. This album is really, really good. The only track that I disliked from this album, wasn't just mad, but I disliked it, was Feels Good to Me. But Anno Mundi, the Sabbath Stones, and Valhalla are Black Sabbath hits. Or at least they should be. The other songs on here are good too, but my favorites are those three. Here's an excerpt of the Sabbath Stones.
Fire and water, wind and rain, wings that carry hell in every vein.
Now at this point they take a break from Tony Martin. He's coming back, but they actually bring back Ronnie James Dio for 1992's Dehumanizer. This is another impressively solid album, and it's in a little bit of a different style. They're getting a little bit more industrial and angry. This is their angriest album. Also a very impressively solid album. Another one of those where there just is not a bad song on here. For my favorites, I'm really torn between Computer God and I, but I just barely got to give the edge to I.
The first to escape, I am wicked. I am legion, strength in numbers, and the number is one.
After All and TV Crimes are the other very noteworthy songs on this album. But once again, Dio and Tony aren't getting along, and so Dio goes back to his solo career, and they bring Tony Martin back for 2 more Black Sabbath albums. The first of these is Cross Purposes in 1994. And this album gives you a great first impression with these first 4 tracks. And these first 4 tracks are the best songs on this album. And in fact, I think my favorite is probably the first song, Eyewitness.
Burning dark, darkness which illuminates you.
The rest of the album is pretty good. You go through a little bit of a fillery kind of slump towards the middle and towards the middle end. But Cardinal Sin is a noteworthy track. And then What's the Use, which was a bonus track. That one's not to be missed. After this, they released 1995's Forbidden, which is commonly thought of to be one of the worst heavy metal albums of all time. Like when people think of Saint Anger by Metallica being like a confusingly bad album, this is often mentioned within the same breath. If we were only dealing with the original release of this album, I wholeheartedly agree. This album is garbage. It's at the bottom of my list. Rusty Angels was really the only saving grace of this album.
Say you came from heaven, but I know that's not the truth. 'Cause I don't think an angel could look anything like you.
The main things that dragged this album down was just poor songwriting and really bad production. A good bit of that was fixed though. A remix of this album was released last year, which improved just about every facet of this album. And yeah, you still get some weird songwriting stuff in there, but when I was listening to the remix and I got to songs like Get a Grip or Shaking Off the Chains or the title track or Can't Get Close Enough or Kiss of Death, I was nodding my head and I was thinking, okay, I think I kind of get it. It's not going to be my favorite album or anything, but the remix did improve the album enough to maybe notch it up a few steps on the discography ranking. This is the last album that Sabbath releases for a very long time until they finally reunite once again with Ronnie James Dio. This brings them to release The Devil You Know in 2007. Now, interestingly enough, this is under the band name Heaven and Hell. It's not under the band name Black Sabbath, but it's the same lineup that was playing on The Mob Rules and Dehumanizer. The 2 reasons that I saw online for the band name change, and these are not mutually exclusive, so they could both be true, was one was that Sharon was suing the band Black Sabbath because she was claiming that Ozzy Osbourne had a right to the name Black Sabbath and that they can't tour under the name Black Sabbath without Ozzy Osbourne. But secondly, that they weren't sure they even wanted to, because if they went on tour with Ronnie James Dio, they didn't want fans to be expecting Dio to sing Paranoid and War Pigs and Iron Man and all those Ozzy Osbourne hits. They wanted to be able to stick to the Dio years. Speaking of the Dio years, they released a greatest hits compilation at this time that includes 3 newly recorded and released tracks: The Devil Cried, Shadow of the Wind, and Ear in the Wall. All 3 of these songs are great. Don't miss them. But back to The Devil You Know. This album is really, really good. I love it. It is so dark and doomy It is the darkest and heaviest album that they've made for sure. I thought maybe it got off to a kind of slowish start with Adam and Evil and Fear, but after that, the album really kicks into overdrive, and we have like Bible Black, which is an amazing song, Follow the Tears, which is an amazing song, Breaking into Heaven. All three of these are 10 out of 10. These should be included in Black Sabbath's greatest hits. Just listen to how heavy and chill-inducing the opening to Follow the Tears is. Now, they launch a tour under this name, Heaven and Hell, but then Ronnie James Dio sadly loses his life to cancer, and that leaves Black Sabbath back in this kind of limbo space where they aren't really doing anything for a while. Against everyone's expectations, they finally reunite with Ozzy Osbourne and release an album in 2013 called 13. This is their final album, and I unfortunately thought it was a little bit of a disappointment. The mood is definitely here, and you get glimpses of like riffs and melodies that could have led to great ideas. They just don't feel well developed enough. So this album definitely has a set in stone identity, and if that's the mood you're looking for, this is a great album to go to get it. I just heard songs like God is Dead and Live Forever and Age of Reason and thought, man, you guys had something, you just didn't capitalize on it. My favorite song on this album is the album's official closing track, which is Dear Father.
Can you sleep at night when you close your eyes? Do you think of all the pain from your life?
Now, this album was released with 4 bonus tracks, so a lot of times if you find the right edition, you'll see 3 of them, Methodemic, Pariah, and Peace of Mind. But the Japanese version has an additional bonus track called Naivete in Black, which is a pretty good song. All of these are pretty good songs, so if you're a completionist, don't miss out on them. That is largely how I felt about the whole album, though. Pretty good, rarely great. There is my album ranking. The top 5 are perfect albums, or at least very close to being perfect albums. From 6 all the way down to 13, you have an impressive body of work here that is not to be missed if you like this kind of music. From 13 to 15, we have albums of good quality. I revisit them from time to time. They just don't quite stack up against the rest of their body of work. And then from 16 to 20 is kind of a descending list into albums that I had negative opinions of. Again, I'm sticking Forbidden on the bottom just because I've lived my whole life with Forbidden being one of the worst metal albums of all time. The remix might bump it up a few spots. It does make it considerably better, so keep that in mind. Thank you for watching. Up next is going to be Steppenwolf, then Genesis, then I believe I'm going to do Boston, finally. So stay tuned for that.